Anonymous X female reader named Julia. Julia watched the video.
We do not trust your corrupt government to bring justice, so we will be exposing your crimes to the world. We are Legion. Expect us.
Julia just finished watching Anonymous' statement about the current state of the American government. She watched the green lights flicker across the vendetta face mask. The chiseled curves of the mask made Julia feel butterflies in her vagina. She's never felt those feelings for anyone, especially for a masked techno-vigilante. Yet her feelings grew for the mysterious man. His distorted voice repeated in Julia's head. For some reason, Julia was turned on by bringing justice to the corrupt racial institutions in the United States. One thing led to another, and Julia's hands were slowly moving towards her gorilla-gripped skinny coochie. She thought of Anonymous and his beautiful baggy blacky clothes, and what would lie underneath those clothes. She thought of Anon hacking her guts and bypassing her firewall to achieve orgasm. Julia was so horny from her imagining Anonymous and his techno-babble that she didn't expect the incoming orgasm. "Anon, my daddy!" she screamed as she creamed her gamer girl in forced underwear. After the quick masturbation session, Julia was out for hours, just like the time Anonymous successfully took down the PayPal website, which was also out for hours. Julia dreamed of her life with Anonymous and liberating countries through the internet. She dreamed of helping Anonymous during the Arab Spring and helping liberators in Tunisia and other dictatorships. The thought almost made her want to come again, but she refrained from doing it. Julia woke up from her hour-long nap, realizing she only had 30 minutes to make it to work. Julia worked at the Lincoln Zoo in Chicago, intended for the small lizards and monkey exhibits. She was ready for another drab day at the zoo, an especially drab day after George Floyd's death by a cop. Julie thought it was unfair to call cops pigs, because pigs are smart and don't kill unarmed black people. Julia is pretty involved in animal rights. Julia biked to work every day from her apartment. This day was different, though, because it seemed that riots in her city of Chicago have broken out. She dodged broken glass and swiveled through protesters and police. She even saw a cop spray a black teenager with mace after the teenager brutally roasted the shit out of the cop's shoes. "What are those? Damn, better put those Crocs in sport mode," she remembers the black teenager saying. "What fucking cop wears Crocs to a riot?" The cop responded, "You're not allowed to hurt my feelings," the middle-aged cop said. "I was bullied as a kid, and now I abuse my power as a policeman to have power over others around me so they don't call me fat." The cop then sprayed mace into the protester's face, from what Julia could recall. After all that conflict, she arrived at the zoo. All the protesters were fighting authority, and it reminded Julia of Anonymous, and she was already becoming horny again. This feeling of arousal completely faded as she looked into her workplace, the Lincoln Park Zoo. Monkeys fighting polar bears, baby fawns imprinting on gorillas, and even interspecies sex between the bears. Julia thought that the riot must have gone to the zoo and unleashed the animals. But Julia was more shocked that she didn't realize that a police officer was behind her. "Hey, this zone is occupied by the National Guard and Chicago Police Force. the police officer said as he shoved Julia to the ground. "I work here. Please don't hit me," Julia tried to plead, but the police officer's facial expression was still as angry as before. "No one is allowed in the zoo," the officer screamed at Julia. "I'm the law around here, and you deserve punishment for breaking the Chicago PD's laws." Just then, a mysterious figure from behind him appeared. "ACAB, motherfucker." And the mysterious figure hit the police officer with a metal bat. The officer was knocked unconscious from the blow, and Julia was in awe as she realized who was standing in front of her. "Oh my God, it's anonymous," Julia said, both relieved and excited. "OMG, I didn't know you were real. I thought you were just from the internet. Did you see my Stan account? Oh my God, did you see my fan edits of you?" Julia's feelings of arousal were starting to come back.
Calm down,
Anon said, his vendetta mask gleaming in the Chicago sunlight.
There's more than one anonymous, but yes, I did see your foreigner edit of me.
Julia couldn't hold it in anymore, and she kissed Anon unexpectedly. Julia was worried by the initial silence, but Anon started to kiss back. Julia was ravenous. Even though she was 18, she was still a virgin, and she finally got to watch porn, because you need to be 18 years or older to watch porn. She's given head before, though, and she was determined to give Daddy Anon some top-quality sloppy toppy. She continued to kiss the beautiful hacktivist as she undid his black pants. At the same time, Anon stopped massaging Julia's hips and removed his flannel. To Julia's luck, he wasn't wearing anything underneath the flannel. The two lovebirds moved to the lemur exhibit, as Julia knew that was where the nearest bench was. As Anon sat, Julia proceeded to suck off Anonymous's girthy cock. As she did, she felt Anon's chest. For someone who dedicated his life to internet hacking for justice, Anon must have worked out pretty frequently, because he was stacked. Anon moaned as he balled onto Julia's hair as she gave him head. Julia suddenly deep-throated the entire length of Anon's cock, and her ass jiggled as she bent over to swallow the member. At that moment, Anon came into Julia's mouth as she let out a small gasp. The lemurs and penguins looked in horror as they saw the sexual intercourse between the two beautiful humans. It was almost as if the penguins of Madagascar were disappointed in Julia and Anon's public actions. Julia didn't care, though, and whispered as she cuddled with Anon. Justice turns me on so much." Anon smiled and took out his phone to reveal screenshotted lawsuit documents. Julia looked at the documents, only to realize it was a case of sex trafficking, and the president paid more than $1 million in the settlement. She realized that the president has just been exposed for being a sex trafficker, and that this is now public information that could destroy the corrupt president. She violently orgasmed at the information. Anon commented, "Damn, Julia, justice really does turn you on." And the two cuddled in the zoo as the rest of Chicago continued rioting. This story was written by Sarcastic Stories 1. The end.